gentrification increases in people who are without housing and living in poverty here in Denver, I'm going to give some necessary context. The main society and culture we are born into in this country and in many places around the world is called capitalism. It is an international political system which decrees universal values and forces and maintains competition between individuals in order to divide and conquer, to empower a few while oppressing most, and to dominate and imperialize everything. Because of this system, we judge our worth and success as human beings by the amount of property and money we have. Capitalism depends on the majority of the population believing in the value and importance of money and of having ownership of things. It depends on individuals thinking of themselves as separate and independent from the rest of their neighborhood and supposed community. For capitalism to work, there will always be people on top, and therefore people will always have to be on the bottom holding them up. When traveling through downtown Denver, it's nearly impossible to go a few blocks without seeing new construction for new apartment buildings. Some may see these new developments as necessary for an up-and-coming, booming hipster city. However, the ones who are being involuntarily displaced feel differently. The neighborhood of 5 Points, where we are right now, is a prime example of the constant cycle of redlining, greenlining, and rather gentrification. From the 1920s and 50s, known as the Harlem of the West, it was a thriving community with a rich mix of business and commerce along the Welton Corridor. It became a predominantly African-American neighborhood because discriminatory home sale laws in other neighborhoods forbade Black people from settling in them. The area was seen as a haven not only for Black people, but for Mexicans and Mexican-Americans, as well as Japanese-American residents who found an alternative to internment during World War II. However, with the successes of desegregation and with more money and resources being pumped into neighborhoods, urban flight caused the population of 5 Points to drop dramatically from 32,000 in 1959 to 8,700 in 1974. The property was cheap and abandoned, and thus displacement of long-time residents by affluent newcomers was imminent. In 2009, with the formation of the 5 Points Business District, there was a solid strategy to rebuild a strong business economy. This gentrification, coined as revitalization, is what's still happening today. According to the Self-Sufficiency Standard for Colorado 2015 report by Colorado Center on Law and Policy, the cost of living across the state has outpaced wages by a ratio of 3 to 1 over the last 14 years. Much of this increase is from a lack of truly affordable housing, where the average rental unit in Denver rests at a prohibitively high average of $1,291 per month. To afford this average rental price in Denver metro area, renters need to make $35 an hour, or almost 4.5 times Colorado's minimum wage, thus increasing and fueling the cycle of poverty and houselessness for many Denver residents. In Colorado, affordable housing is typically defined as paying no more than 30% of gross income for housing, including utilities. In 2010, 47% of all renter households were paying more than 30% of their income towards housing. And of these rent-burdened households, 51% had family incomes of less than $20,000 per year. It is evident that all of the affordable housing developments being built are meant for affluent people who have money to spare to fill the city's pockets. The numbers of people who are without housing will exponentially rise as long as the priorities of the people in power remain the same, making room for newcomers who can afford the revitalized neighborhoods. According to the 2015 point-in-time report by Metro Denver Homeless Initiative, which has been known to be a low estimate, there were nearly 4,000 people without housing in the Denver metro area, nearly 600 being veterans. In 2014, the Denver Post investigated homeless students and found that there were over 23,000 children without housing enrolled in Colorado public schools. For those who spend much of their time on the streets and in public space, they are criminalized daily for merely trying to survive. The urban camping ban, which went into effect in May 2012, is an ordinance in Denver which states that it is illegal for anyone to reside or dwell on public or private property with any form of cover or protection from the elements other than their clothing. That includes a tarp, a blanket, a sleeping bag, a yoga mat. Enforcement of the ban in March and April of this year was up nearly 500% compared to enforcement over the previous 45 months. Not only are people without housing constantly woken up in the middle of the night and told to move along to where is what most people have to say to that, their belongings and property are often confiscated by the police. On March 8th, when baseball season was amiss and tourists were going to begin flooding downtown, the city began intensifying the sweeps in the ballpark and 5 Point neighborhoods. People were told to move along, and the property they could not haul off fast enough or all at once was seized and brought to a holding facility where their property would be stored for 30 days and then destroyed. Thomas, a Denver resident without housing, went to the facility on March 25th to retrieve his confiscated belongings from the March 8th sweeps. He was not allowed to enter the facility and had to describe in great detail every item which was taken. After 30 minutes of re-describing his belongings and of the worker looking for them, his belongings were not found. When they were taken, Thomas was at breakfast and was completely unaware and not notified that the city was planning on sweeping the area and confiscating property. They took his life. They took his clothes, pictures of his kids, government papers, an address book, tarps, blankets, and sleeping bags. When he returned from breakfast and realized all of his belongings had disappeared, he had to ask around to figure out that it was the city who had taken his property and learned of where he could go to get it back. People who are without housing are seen as unworthy and unsuccessful in our capitalist society. And therefore, the criminalization and mistreatment of them, including seizing their property without due process of law, is too often overlooked or met with victim blaming and ignorant rhetoric. What we need in society is a shift to cooperative, communal, solidarity living, where each individual in the community has inherent value and is treated with respect. People who do not live in houses, whether it is their choice or not, deserve to be treated with respect and dignity no matter what. Denver Homeless Out Loud is in the process of establishing the first tiny home village in Denver called Resurrection Village. When there is not enough permanent low-income housing available for the growing population of people without houses, it only makes sense to allow the people to organize themselves and provide housing for themselves. Having one's own space to take care of, rather than being forced to sleep on a mat near 300 other people, can be a healing experience. Having a door too shut and a sense of privacy can give people a sense of worth. And having the village run by residents themselves gives people a sense of agency, communal accountability, self-respect, and worth that shelter systems cannot offer. Everyone deserves a safe place to call home. Everyone deserves to feel valuable, no matter if they have money or own property. Everyone deserves the right to rest and sleep and do every other basic human activity that is vital, such as relieving oneself, eating, and drinking water. As a city, we must repeal the urban camping ban and pass a right to survive. Instead of spending tax dollars and donations on criminalizing homelessness, we need to allocate public funds for homes and underutilized public spaces for alternative housing models. We will not be hidden or pushed away. We need homes, not sweeps. Thank you.